All right, in this video, I want to kind of embellish the for loop a little bit more as it not being just a counter controlled loop, but you can also, in some languages, use it as a sequence controlled loop. Okay, so what is a sequence? Well, a sequence is just a collection of things. Okay, you've already dealt with one sequence, strings. Strings are a collection of characters, but there are many other types of sequences out there that you can work with. In Python specifically, we have lists and tuples and dictionaries, and all of those are sequences of elements. They could be numbers, they could be other strings, they could be objects, they could be all sorts of things. But either way, it is a defined set of items that we can pick out one item at a time and go through every single one of them. And since this set has a defined number of elements, we know exactly how many times we're going to iterate. So I'm going to call this a for each loop instead of just a regular for loop for each element in the sequence. So I've got a problem here. What I want to do is find the number of words in a short phrase. So I'm going to type out, let the user type in a short phrase. And what I want to know is how many words there are. If you think about that, we could actually count the number of words quite easily if we knew how many spaces there were in the phrase. For every word, there is an accompanied space between the words. So if we know that there are three spaces, then we should tell that there are four words in the phrase, one to separate each word. So I can count the number of spaces, add one to it, and then I will have the number of words in the phrase. So let's pseudocode this up and see where it takes us. So let's go with start and my declarations. I am going to have a string for my phrase. I will have a integer for the number of words, and I will set that equal to 0 to begin with, just so that I can work with it. And then essentially all I'm doing is looking for spaces within the phrase. So let's get into this. We'll input the phrase, okay? And then my looping structure is going to go relatively simply. What I want to do is, since the phrase is a string and a string is a collection of characters, a sequence of characters, I want to loop over every single character in the string and just try to identify if it's a space. So to loop through every character in the string, I'm going to say something like this: for each character in the phrase, okay, I want to check to see if the character is a space. Then what I will do is I'll take num words and I will increase it by 1. So we'll set num words equal to num words plus 1. Okay. And then essentially what we'll do is we'll display how many words there are. Okay. So this num words really does take the spaces. So maybe I'm doing this a little awkwardly. Let's do this. We'll go integer and we'll make it spaces. We'll set that equal to 0. I'll keep num words at nothing to begin with, and we'll change this to spaces. Okay, this makes more sense. So for each character in the phrase, if the character is a space, then I'm going to increase spaces to be one more than what it currently was. Now, when I'm all said and done, what I want to do is check out num words. So we're out of the loop. I'm done processing the phrase character by character. I could say num words is equal to spaces plus 1. We'll set it and we'll display it. We'll make sure we print it out. So in terms of my pseudocode, it seems to work pretty well. I should not have changed the language here. Stop, just stop. Okay, as we start working our way through. Now, in terms of a flowchart, it's going to look extremely similar to what it was before. Here, we're going to go through the same basic ideas. We're going to have our terminal for start. We will have our processing symbol for our declarations. And I'm going to have an integer for the spaces. We'll set that equal to 0. We're going to have an integer words, and we're going to have a string for the phrase. We're going to input the phrase. We're going to utilize our for loop syntax here to kind of work our way through. So that's that preparation, that hexagonal symbol. And we are going to make sure that that text goes right dead center for us. So we're going to say for each character in the phrase. Okay, let's make that a little bigger so it looks nice. And we'll connect it with some flow lines, click and drag. What we're going to do on this one is we are going to process, we're going to set spaces equal to spaces plus one. Bring that down here. Remember, this is next because we want to go to the next character, to the next character, to the next character. Oh, no, sorry, we had a diamond in here. We want to set if. I don't know why I'm a little off today. Where's my diamond, 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 diamond? There we go. Let's bring that in. So if the character equals a space, then we want to do what we said we were going to do. We are going to set spaces equal to spaces plus one. Bring that down nice and tidy. And we're going to bring our flow line back around to our for loop. So that we can get it to match. So for each character in the phrase, if the character is a space, we increase spaces by one. Now remember, if this isn't true, we need to make sure we come back along and continue with that. So let's just bring that over here a bit. Let's see if I can add in an extra bend here. There we go. Just to get that looking right. There we are. Whoops. Now we're looking good. And then obviously when I exit this, I want to set num words equal to spaces plus one, and I will display it. And we'll stop. So slightly different looping structure, not any different really than the other for loop, except we don't have to have this number value as we go through this. We just have a sequence that we can work with as we're working our way through, which is really nice in order to make that work appropriately. So keep that in mind as you're working through a few things, okay? You might enjoy using that for each loop. It will come in very handy later on, especially when we're working in Python and working with things like lists and strings specifically as we start working our way through. But that is something that we need to be able to handle and work our way around. So there we are. You've got everything you need out of that. Again, let me know if there are any questions with this as you're working your way through, and I would be happy to answer them.